إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن أمير المؤمنين وإمام المتقين عليا ولي الله أشهد أن أمير المؤمنين وإمام المتقين عليا حجة الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير الأعمال حي على خير الأعمال الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم اجعل قلبي بار وعمل سار وعيش قارا ورزق دارا ولاذ برارا واجعل عند قبر نبيك صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم مستقرا مقرارا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين اللهم صل
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي كان موجودا قبل حدوث الأشياء ويبقى بعد فناء الأشياء تفرد بالأولية والقدم ووسم كل شيء ما عداه بالفناء والعدم كما قال عز شان كل شيء حالك إلا وجهه وكل نفس ذائقة الموت قال كل من عليها فان ويبقى وجه ربك ذو الجلال والإكرام سبحان من لا يخفى عليه اختلاف النيات ولا يعزب عنه ماس العباد في الخلوات سبحان الله الذي منه خلقة العباد وإليه المعاد فمن يعمل مثقال ذرة خيرا يره ومن يعمل مثقال ذرة شر يره نشهد أن لا إله إلا هو الملك الذي لا ينازع في ملكه ولا يضاد في حكمه يعذب من يشاء بما يشاء كيف يشاء ويرحمه من يشاء بما يشاء كيف يشاء تعذيبه المسيئين عدل وعفوه تفضل ونشهد أن محمدا سيد المرسلين وخير المبشرين والمنذرين صلى الله عليه وآله الهداة المهديين من ركب سفينتهم نجا واهتدى ومن تخلف عنها ضل فغرق وهوى أوصيكم عباد الله بالاعتصام بالتقوى فإنه حبل متين وعروة وثقى فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الذين طغوا في البلاد فأكثروا فيها الفساد فصب عليهم ربك صوت عذاب صدق الله العلي العظيم الله. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. I begin by advising myself and all of you to practice the piety and the taqwa of Allah as is the best of provisions. The verses that I recited are from Surah Fajr. In these ayat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, all these transgressed beyond bounds in the land and heaped therein mischief, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was the one who sent adhab on them. This is a reference to the three groups of people that are mentioned in Surah Al-Fajr. One is Qawm Aad, Qawm Thamud, and Qawm Hud. Now, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about these people, embellishes what they were able to achieve, what they were able to attain, to the heights they were able to go to. But because of certain reasons which are mentioned after this adhab, they saw their fate to be in turmoil. Why? Because they transgressed beyond bounds in the lands. The ayah says, الَّذِينَ تَغَوْا فِي الْبِلَادِ فَأَكْثَرُوا فِيهَا الْفَسَادِ. And then not only that, they continue to wreak havoc and they continue to extend the fasad and the corruption in the land. Now we can relate a great deal to what causes fasad and what are the lead causing effects, elements that cause fasad in our society. So therefore today we'll talk about this concept of corruption and fasad. That what corrupts a society, and there are many verses in Quran just like this one that read لا تفسدوا في الأرض, right? Don't cause fasad in the land, especially next to many verses, things related to sometimes economy, because economically speaking, there's more fasad, and of course, socially speaking, and fasad in the societies in other ways and means that we see. What provides the platform for fasad or corruption? How can an individual or a society get dragged into corruption? These are some of the questions, inshallah, we'll try and address in today's khutbah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So I'll present 4 or 5 points as how usually I go about in the khutbah al-Jummah, so it's easy to remember and it's easy to follow, inshallah. First is rebellion in front of Allah. The tughyan that is being mentioned here, or the word tagha, which we translate as rebels or rebellion, it's first and foremost, it starts in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When a person loses the sanctity and the grandeur and the taqaddus that Allah is watching, that Allah can punish me, and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will go ahead and, because he's getting this respite, he or she thinks that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not watching. Or, my action is not bad enough yet. And therefore, the person continues on this track. So, tughyan is same as taghut, when a person becomes stiff-necked. Ayat of Quran in Surah Fajr 11 and 12, it says, الَّذِينَ تَغَوْا فِي الْبِلَادِ فَأَكْثَرُوا فِيهِ الْفَسَادِ. Those who rebelled against Allah in their cities and caused much corruption in them. So they rebelled against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But at another place, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the first revelation of Quran, the chapter Iqra or Surah Alaq that was revealed, ayat number 6 and 7 also refer toward the same concept, that innal insana la yatgha ar-ra'ahu istaghna. Here it narrows the gap a little bit, that this ayat, when you translate this, here gives you that there must be some economic reasons for the fasad that is being mentioned here. So when communism was spreading, the communists would say that capitalism is an element of rebellion. They would propose things against capitalism. Investment brings rebellion, therefore let's get rid of investments and bring communism. Some who fell for this idea, said Quran says the same thing. Quran approves of what the communists are saying. Quran is also against the capitalistic mentality as well. And they will go ahead and, say that if you become rich and had investments, you will rebel. Therefore, capital and investments are elements of rebellion. But Quran solved this with this verse when it says, Innal insana la yatgha. Did not say, Innal mala, that the wealth becomes the reason for your rebellion. Because you cannot paint everyone with the same stroke. Innal insana la yatgha. It is insan who becomes rebellion, and he sees what? An ra'ahu istaghna. That he sees himself to be what? Self-sufficient. Sufficient that he is not in need of anyone else anymore. And when that concept comes into play, that's when the fasad increases. That's when the corruption starts to come about. So he considers himself without need. Wealth, investment, and capitalism is an element of rebellion only when a person considers himself an ra'ahu istaghna. Otherwise, these things could also be used in a positive way. So for example, we see that how does this humility, is it possible for someone to become so famous, become so known and powerful and remain from causing fasad? Is that even such a thing? Is it even possible? Can you name anyone that who has reached to the heights, become known and so much powerful, yet refrain from doing any sort of fasad? And I'm not talking about ma'asumeen, I'm not talking about infallibles. I'm talking about, people like you and I, who gain some sort of power, who have worldly possessions that make us powerful, for example, and then are we able to suppress our egos in front of it and refrain from torturing or oppressing someone else? Or misusing our powers. I may not be doing this directly and inflicting pain on someone else, but misuse of my power. Is it possible for someone? Well, we'll see that one of the fine examples that we have is our leading maraja. You look at the lives of many of the scholars who have reached at that highest level. For example, just to name a couple, Ayatollah Sistani, for example, Ayatollah Khamenei, for example, Ayatollah Wahid, for example, Ayatollah Bashir, for example, Ayatollah Ishaq Fayyad, for example, Makarim Shirazi, all of these who are hayat right now, and those who passed away, for example, like Ayatollah Mohsin Hakim or Ayatollah Burujardi or Imam Khomeini and others who passed away, and even further beyond before them, like Ayatollah Burujardi and others who were, the only leading marja of the time, and there was no one else next to them. Just imagine the kind of power that they have, that the type of following they have, and what they can do by issuing one edict, by issuing one verdict, by saying something, how much impact there is on the world. But when you look at the example that these are most knowledgeable in the areas of Islamic jurisprudence, that's why we do their taqleed. But when the same individual signs a piece of paper issuing a fatwa or a hukum or something, he writes underneath al-ahqar, meaning what? The most humbled and the most degraded. Comes from the word hakir, that I'm not the most powerful and the honorable it might be in your eyes, but how I look at myself, al-ahqar, the most degraded, the most abased, the most humble that you can even imagine. In fact, if you look at the autobiography of Ayatollah Wahid on his website, it says, Sharh hal az-zabane mu'azzaman lahu, juz qusur wa taqsir cheezi nadaran. That his autobiography with his own words, when someone asks, explain or, tell us about yourself from the beginning till now, he said one sentence. He said, Juz qusur wa taqsir cheezi nadaram. Aside from negligence and fault, I have nothing in my life. You are the leading most marja in the world. Your followers are in millions, and how much power you have, yet the level of humility and humble. So it is possible. So I just gave these examples to tell you that person can reach that level of, fame and power at the same time, but at the same time remain what? From rebellion, remain away from causing tughyan or rebellion against others or oppressing others. On the contrary, a person like me, spending a few years in Hawza, considers myself to be the most knowledgeable, and if anyone comes about questioning my, or contradicts me, then, the hell will break loose as far as that is concerned. We look at Hazrat Sulaiman alayhi wasalam. He had a lot of wealth, and he possessed the biggest kingdom ever. In fact, he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, give me a kingdom no one ever had before. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him that kingdom. Not only that he ruled over people, humans, but he also ruled over animals and birds and insects and all of those. Although we believe that all the imams and masumeen and anbiya are the same way. But we actually physically read in Quran, so speaking, that we see that in his assembly they were, attentive were who? The animals and the birds. So they had the biggest kingdom there could be ever imaginable. But when you ask him, where do you get this big kingdom and all the power that you possess? He will respond by saying what? Hada min fadli Rabbi. This became a maqula. In part of India, Pakistan, you see this written on many of the shops. Hada min fadli Rabbi. What does that mean? That is from the fadl and the grace of my Rabb. O Sulaiman, you have such a huge kingdom. You rule over all these men, jinn, humans, and animals and birds and insects. He says, Hada min fadli Rabbi. Nothing is from me. Everything is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, means that wealth doesn't intoxicate you. The fact that a wealthy would say, it belongs to me, becoming a scholar isn't intoxicating. Rather saying, this is my own intellect and my own thought. This is my innovation. These are the reasons for which a person becomes what? Becomes rebellious and becomes oppressors. So it's all due to Allah. If He didn't inspire me, that humility, if it's there, because I was able to attain all this wealth, because I was able to attain these achievements, or I was able to attain this knowledge, or I was able to become a marja taqleed, and I was able to do this and that, all of this is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that keeps you what? Humble. And you said, mahabbatan minni, as Surah Taha says, and endearing is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So rebellion in front of Allah is the first element of corruption. Number two, real honor comes from being obedient to Allah. So sometimes the false pride and the false honor becomes the reason for us to start thinking about ourselves. What do we perceive honor in? A girl thinks that the only way to get good proposal is by having a degree. Therefore, she will reject all the proposals until she has attained some sort of, degree. I'm not against career building. I'm not against any of that. But you can get married and pursue your career as well. To reject, because right now you're studying and, maybe after you graduate, you'll get a better proposal, or an honorable proposal, for example, and that is something which inshallah we'll talk about that towards the end as well. And I'll attract someone who's more knowledgeable, or I'll attract someone more, I don't think anyone looks for more knowledgeable, I'll attract someone who is more, wealthy as far as that is concerned, then, I'll continue on with this. So these proposals that are rejected, that also becomes a means of corruption. So Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, he made a dua. Remember the story of Hazrat Ibrahim, that he's ordered by Allah to leave his family and his young, infant child in this valley, which is a barren valley of Makkah at that time. What is his dua? He says, فَجْعَلْ أَفْئِدَةً مِّنَ النَّاسِ تَهْوِي إِلَيْهِمْ. That Allah make the hearts of the people, fond of them. I'm leaving my family, my wife and my children, or my child in this valley based on your hukum. All I want is that people love them. I don't want, this is a natural desire for anyone. If you leave your family somewhere for time being, what do you want people to do? You want them to take care and look after them. So he made that. Now, look at one of the duties of Hazrat Ibrahim was what? Is to go ahead and build this Kaaba, or to rebuild the Kaaba. Kaaba was originally built by Hazrat Adam alayhi salam. So Hazrat Ibrahim and Ismail did what? They rearranged and then re-erected this Kaaba, which was already there and was brought down, for example, many times. Is Kaaba very beautiful? Someone might ask. Is a beautiful building? Is it a beautiful building? What is it is just a few black blocks stacked up on top of each other, and there isn't really much engineering skills, to be honest with you, right? Anyone can really build a Kaaba. It does not require much engineering. It's just a few big blocks stacked up on top of each other in a square shape, and nothing challenging as far as engineering is concerned, right? You agree with me? I'm not demoting, I'm not, taking a shot at Kaaba and the one who built it, but I'm trying to build a point. From the engineering perspective, there's not really not much to amuse and amaze, right? Nothing mesmerizing as you see in the world, different, fixtures and different monuments that are built. You look at them and then they appeal to you. You don't have the same when it comes to as far as the building of the Kaaba itself is concerned, the material that is used, blocks that are used, the color that is chosen, and the way it is a square, shaped monument. But just one prayer from Hazrat Ibrahim ﷺ is part of this Kaaba, which turned the hearts of hundreds and millions of people to turn toward it. Hazrat Ibrahim made this dua, oh Allah, make their hearts turn toward them, so the false honor is also an element of corruption. Honor comes because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has all the honor. فَلِلَّهِ إِزَّةُ جَمِيعًا. Indeed, honor belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This house did not have much to offer as far as the charisma is concerned, but the fact that this house is associated to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right away, people are attracted toward it. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Number 3, following your nafs is also an element of corruption. We read in Surah Mu'minun, ayat 71, وَلَوِ اتَّبَعَ الْحَقِّ أَهْوَاءَهُمْ لَفَسَدَتِ السَّمَاوَاتُ وَالْأَرْضُ. Had the truth followed their desires, the heavens and the earth would have surely fallen apart along with those who are in them. So following one's nafs, meaning what? Being obedient to one's nafs. And have you not seen the one who took his nafs as his ilah, that as his Lord, as his worshipper? If we follow our desires, not only we can corrupt ourselves easily, but we can corrupt everything that is around us as well, as this ayat is mentioning. We speak based on the desires, we give vote based on the desires, we choose a profession based on the desires, we conduct marriages based on our desires. All of these things are done because of what my nafs wants. My nafs wants this degree, my nafs wants this job, my nafs wants this person, my nafs wants to marry so-and-so, my nafs wants me to go ahead and vote for so-and-so, my nafs wants. All of these things are done based on our desires. When all of these things are done based on our desires, then of course we will, when it comes to other matters as well, will definitely fall and make mistakes. Quran says, if we went after desires, the earth and the skies will be corrupted. On the contrary, there's a path of Islah. Surah Baqarah 12 says, In Allah innahum humul mufsidun. When it points out the corruption, it said, behold, they are themselves the agent of corruption, but they are not aware. So what happens sometimes is that individuals who are following their desires, following their nufus, in doing all of these things, they become the element themselves. So now we were discussing what are some of the external elements. This individual himself becomes the element of the corruption in the society himself. You know, when you read the ayat which talks about the fuel of Jahannam, right? Fuel of Jahannam, what will the Jahannam be burning? So you have fuel, what do you use? You use logs, you use wood, you use, anything that burns. And he says, no, the humans will be the fuel of Jahannam itself. Jahannam ki aag ka indhan khud insan hoga. Similar is the case over here, that insan will become the element of corruption. Number 4, people look up to the leaders of the society. Now, leaders in society has a big role to play. Quran in Surah Naml says, قَالَتْ إِنَّ الْمُلُوكِ إِذَا دَخَلُوا قَرِيَةً أَفْسَدُوهَا. Same word, fasad, is mentioned. She said, indeed, when kings enter a town, they devastate it. Of course, Queen of Sheba, Bilqis, she said that regarding Hazrat Sulaiman, that he will enter the town, and usually the muluk, when they enter the town, what they do? They go ahead and devastate it. If we are concerned about the corruption in the society, we can easily blame the leadership for causing it. But we must all play a role in preventing it from corruption. We're all answerable in that regards. Of course, at the level that we are at. But someone who's been trusted and vested with some sort of power, them using their power to cause corruption or to eliminate corruption is going to be much more higher. So therefore, if an action is presented by a leader of a society, a community, whether it's in the form of a political figure, whether it's in the form of a religious leader, that would set examples for others to follow along. And he or she can either promote corruption or he or she can also eliminate this corruption. So Quran talks about this as well. We read in Surah Ahzab, Ya Nisa an-Nabi, lastunna ka ahadin minan nisa. We talked about Surah Ahzab in the month of Ramadan. I'm sure some of you still have recollections of that. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not say to the wives of the Prophet that you are different human beings. No, lastunna ka ahadin minan nisa. You are not like all the ordinary women. Because now you are associated with Rasulullah. You're associated to the house of Rasulullah. Therefore, your duty becomes twice, if not more, than regular or ordinary individuals. any bad action that comes from you, what happens? It becomes a means of approval for others as well. It becomes a stamp of approval for others. They right away see that you are doing it. Well, Prophet's wife is doing it, so how could it be wrong with us? And nothing to take, or you can take pride in this as well. This is something which I, firsthand saw. And this is regarding our masjid. That I was traveling in the month of Muharram, and I had gone to another place, Virginia, and I was reciting majlis over there, and one of the main organizers of the majlis came, and they said to me that, Maulana, we kept so-and-so speaker away from coming to our center, because of the controversial stuff that he has said. But you guys invited him to masjid, and people said to us, if Masjid-e-Ali can invite that speaker, then so can we. So I took at it from an aspect that, look, people are looking up to us as those who set the trend. That if something is approved here, then it is okay for us to do it as well. If something is disapproved over here, then we should refrain from doing so as well. So I took it both ways. I felt good that people are looking up to us, that we are setting the trend. But at the same time, I felt bad because we made that mistake, and I told them, you should not make the similar mistake that we have made. It's not like we are ma'soom and we will not ever make mistakes. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So therefore, if a Syed commits a sin, it's worse than non-Syed, for example. If a religious man, a scholar, commits a sin, it's worse than those who are in the ra'aya. An-nasu ala dine mulukihim. People look up to those who have some sort of status. People say, oh, so-and-so also corrupted, and they usurped 100 millions. So if I do corruption of 100,000, how bad could that be? Dealing strongly with the offenders and the intruders of people's right. I'll skip through this, and I'll bring you towards the end that our discussion was, what is the reason and the elements of corruption in the society? First, rebellion in front of Allah. If the grandeur and taqaddus of Allah is broken, then the corruption will be very easily performed. Number two, we mentioned that the honor, the false honor that sometimes people develop, based on their maqam, based on their fame, based on their wealth, based on any other reason, or even religion for that matter, that also results in corruption as well. Following our nafs and being obedient to the nafs also leads to corruption. So the fact that Islam is a religion of mercy, it's because we see a reference to mercy 1,000 times in Quran. Every time you recite Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, you're saying what? That Allah is merciful and compassionate. One of the riwayat mentioned the reason why I repeat this ayat so often. We recite Bismillah every single day, so many times. Before every surah, we recite Bismillah. We consider Bismillah to be part of each surah. What do you say in Bismillah? You say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Then when you recite Surah Fatiha, without which you cannot pray. La salata illa bi Fatihatil Kitab. What do you say? Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. So Rahman ar-Rahim is being repeated from your tongues for one reason, that you embrace and acknowledge the mercifulness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But at the same time, when you continue on saying this yourself, you too will become compassionate and merciful. It will have this impact upon you as well. But at the same time, while Islam is a religion of mercy, and thousands of occasions where you have the word Rahma or Rahman or Ghafoor and all that, but at the same time, there's references toward taking harsh actions toward those who are intruders, those who are offenders. So when you punish an offender or a felon, La ta'khudhukum bihima ra'afa. Quran says, and do not feel pity over those whom you have punished. Because if their crime was, established and it was there, don't feel sad. Why? Prophet is someone, Muhammadun Rasulullah walladhina ma'ahu ashidda'u alal kuffar ruhamahu bainahum. Prophet is someone, Muhammad is the messenger of Allah, and those who are with him are strong against unbelievers, but compassionate amongst themselves. And also lastly, towards the end, when I made that reference of honor and whatnot, Another thing that causes fasad, which you find primarily in riwayat, is the concept of rejecting a proposal for marriage. Riwayah says, Wasail al-Shia, Hadith 25,078, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, he said, إِذَا جَاءَكُمْ مَنْ تَرْضَوْنَ خُلُقَهُ وَدِينَهُ فَزَوِّجُوهُ إِلَّا تَفْعَلُوهُ تَكُنْ فِتْنَةٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ وَفَسَادٌ كَبِيرٌ. That if a proposal comes for you, for your daughter, for your son, and their akhlaq and their deen satisfies you, then marry them. If you don't, then this will lead to a major corruption in the land. You know, a lot of times we see that the age, and I alluded to that when I talked about the false honor and the false izzat that people sometimes develop. You know, we say, well, this person is not according to our sect or not according to our standard. This person is, for example, not Syed. This person is, for example, belongs to this, or any other reason that is given sometimes. And I deal with this all the time. All these proposals that come, and then they get rejected. So much rejection happens. Sometimes the rejection happens from the children. Now, if the children are rejecting it, this is where parents need to step in. They need to also protect their kids from, of course, anyone that they want to marry, and also protect them and counsel them when there's a rightful marriage proposal for them and they are unnecessarily rejecting them. But this riwayah refers to, majority of the time, not the individual who's there to get married, for whom the proposal has come. It's referring to those who are in charge. For example, parents, if they reject someone whose deen and whose akhlaq satisfies them, then of course rejecting such proposal will lead to major corruption in the land. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the tawfiq and ability to understand these means which cause corruption, which lead toward fasad, and as a community, as a society, as a deen, as a madhab, as a follower of Maktab Ahl Bayt, we need to make sure that we can get rid of fasad and corruption from our sufuf. Inna ahsan al-hadith wa ablagh al-mawidha kitabullahi a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim bismillahir rahmanir rahim wal asr innal insana lafi khusr illa alladhina amanu wa amilus salihat wa tawasaw bil haqqi wa tawasaw bis sabr. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحليم الكريم غافر الذنب وقابل التوب وهو الغفور الرحيم سبحان من سبقت رحمته غضب وبسط اليدين بالرحمة سبحان من لم يكلف نفسا إلا دون وسعها وعفى السيئات ولم يجاز بها سبحان من لا يزداد على معاصي العباد إلا كرما وجودا ولا كثرة الذنوب إلا عفوا وصفا نشهد أن لا إله إلا هو لطوف للعباد بجوده والعباد على المذنبين بحلمه ونشهد أن محمدا نبيه وحبيبه سيد المرسلين وشفيع المذنبين بعثه رحمة للعالمين لكم أمركم الله في مقدم كتابه بالصلاة على نبيه وحبيبه فقال تعليما لكم وتشريفا للصفي إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على سيد المرسلين وشفيع المذنبين نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وعلى إمام المسلمين وقائد الغر المحجلين أمير المؤمنين علي بن أبي طالب صلوات الله وسلامه عليه وعلى سيدة نساء العالمين وبذة خاتم النبيين سيدتنا فاطمة بنت رسول الله صلوات الله عليها وعلى الحسن المجتبى وعلى الحسين الشهيد بكربلاء وعلي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي عليهم الصلاة والسلام. اللهم صل على مولانا صاحب الزمان ما هي آثار البدع والطغيان هادم أبنية الشرك والنفاق حاسد فروع البغي والشقاق صلوات الله وسلامه عليه وعلى آبائه الكرام اتصلت الليالي والأيام اللهم عجل فرجا وسهل مخرجا واكحل ناظرنا بنظرة منا إليه واجعلنا من المستشهدين بين يديه وتفضل على أمرائنا المؤمنين بمزيد التوفيقات وازدياد الإقبال وعلو الدرجات. اللهم افعل بنا ما أنت أهله ولا تفعل بنا ما نحن أهله بجاه محمد وآله المعصومين صلوات الله عليهم أجمعين. اللهم اجعلنا ممن يذكر ويفتن الذكرى. إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن عليا ولي الله أشهد أن عليا حجة الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل. قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يسبح لله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض الملك القدوس العزيز الحكيم. هو الذي بعث في الأميين رسولا منهم يتلو عليهم آياته ويزكيهم ويعلمهم الكتاب والحكمة وإن كانوا من قبل لفي ضلال مبين وآخرين منهم لما يلحقوا بهم وهو العزيز الحكيم. ذلك فضل الله يؤتيه من يشاء والله ذو الفضل العظيم. مثل الذين حملوا التوراة ثم لم يحملوها كمثل الحمار يحمل أسفارا بئس مثل القوم الذين كذبوا بآيات الله والله لا يهدي القوم الظالمين. قل يا أيها الذين هادوا إن زعمتم أنكم أولياء لله من دون الناس فتمنوا الموت إن كنتم صادقين ولا يتمنونه أبدا بما قدمت أيديهم والله عليم بالظالمين. قل إن الموت الذي تفرون منه فإنه ملاقيكم ثم تردون إلى عالم الغيب والشهادة فينبئكم بما كنتم تعملون. يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا نودي للصلاة من يوم الجمعة فاسعوا إلى ذكر الله وذروا البيع ذلكم خير لكم إن كنتم تعلمون. فإذا قضيت الصلاة فانتشروا في الأرض وابتغوا من فضل الله واذكروا الله كثيرا لعلكم تفلحون. وإذا رأوا تجارة أو لهوا انفضوا إليها وتركوك قائمة قل ما عند الله خير من اللهو ومن التجارة والله خير الرازقين. الله أكبر. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. وربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار بجاه محمد وآله الأطهار. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. سمع الله لمن حمد. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته يقوم ويقعد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمد. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. سمع الله لمن حمد. الله أكبر. ربنا افرغ علينا صبرا وثبت أقدامنا وانصرنا على القوم الكافرين بجاه محمد وآله الطاهرين. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. يا لطيف ارحم عبدك الضعيف. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر.
ملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. تسبيح جناب فاطمة الزهراء سلام الله عليها. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم الرحمن الرحيم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه. All of us together. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة لابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرزك وتوعى وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Juma Mubarak to you all. Let's recognize the sponsors for today's Juma lunch. It is Mr. and Mrs. Syed Manzar Abbas. Please recite a Surah Fatiha for their marhumin as well as your own marhumin. Surah Fatiha. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. لم يلد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Inshallah, as we've been reminding you, June 25th, Sunday, we will have the inauguration for Sadek School. Many prominent scholars have already, agreed to, inshallah, join us. Syed Mustafa Qazwini, Syed Baqir Kashmiri, Al-Haj Hussain Walji, and many others, inshallah, who will be joining us in this landmark event in which we, do the official opening and the inauguration of recently built Sadek School. So you're all encouraged to attend. There is, RSVP needed so that we can keep account of how many people are coming, and as well as there's childcare also provided free of cost up to age 12 for children, anyone under the age up to 12. Childcare is provided free of cost, so you can bring your kids, leave them there while you enjoy the program, inshallah, which will take place in the Sadek School gym. Speaking of Sadek School gym, every Friday we have a youth program, indoor sports activities for kids starting at 6:30 p.m. until 10, 11 o'clock. So use this opportunity to bring your kids of different age groups are being accommodated, and have kids, inshallah, learn something about Quran, and then there's salat, and then they get to play as well. So good investment, few hours that you can keep them away from their gadgets, their phones, and TV, just so that they can enjoy over here as well. So they pray and they play together hand in hand, inshallah. So that's every Friday that is taking place. Aside from that, I don't have any other announcements. Sadiq School PTO has a big sale outside. You've seen it when you walked in. Please do support their efforts. For all the proceeds go toward enriching the programs for Sadiq School students, and that isn't. I'll do that at the end. Saturday and Sunday is upon us. So Salatul Fajr, inshallah, will take place at 4:30 a.m. I know it's early, but Salatul Fajr is early, so you can't blame it. Come at 4:30, pray with us, and inshallah we'll have Quran halaqah followed by breakfast, which is served downstairs. Same thing on Sunday. We'll have Dua Sabah followed by Ziyarat Ashura, and inshallah breakfast will be served. So you're more than welcome to join every Saturday, every Sunday, at least on the weekends. And that's about it as far as the announcements. I can't think of anything else. Let's recite Dua Sihat for all of those people who are in need of dua, those who are suffering, struggling, going through a difficult time. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bring them out of their difficulty. Let's recite this ayah karima 5 times together. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء 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 ويجعلكم خلفاء الأرض أإله مع الله قليلا ما تذكرون. Let's proceed to Salatul Asr. الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن عليا ولي الله أشهد أن عليا حجة الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله الله أكبر بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمد الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده الله أكبر أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده الله أكبر بحول الله وقوته يقوم ويقعد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الله أكبر اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد ربنا اغفر لي ولوالدي وللمؤمنين يوم يقوم الحساب اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمد الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده الله أكبر أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده الله أكبر الحمد لله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده الله أكبر أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده الله أكبر بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده الله أكبر أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده يا لطيف ارحم عبدك الضعيف الله أكبر الحمد لله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر
ملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد تسبيح
سلام
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم الرحمن الرحيم ذو الجلال والإكرام واسأله أن يتوب علي توبة عبد ذليل خاضع فقير باعث مسكين مستقيم مستجير لا يملك لنفسه نفعا ولا ضرا ولا موتا ولا حياة ولا نشورا. اللهم إني أعوذ بك من نفس لا تشبع ومن قلب لا يخشى ومن علم لا ينفع ومن صلاة لا ترفع ومن دعاء لا يسمع. اللهم إني أسألك اليسر بعد العسر والفرج بعد الكرب والرخاء بعد الشدة. اللهم ما بنا من نعمة فمنك لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Today recite the side of the fifth Imam. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum ya Nabiyullah. Assalamu alaikum ya Amir al-Mu'minin ya Qasim al-Jannati wan-Nar. Assalamu alaikum ya Sayyidul Alamin. Assalamu alaikum ayyul Baqir wa ilmillah. Assalamu alaikum ayyul Faiz wa dinillah. Assalamu alaikum ayyul Mubin li hukmillah. Assalamu alaikum ayyul Qaim bi qistillah. Assalamu alaikum ayyul Nasir bi ibadillah. Assalamu alaikum ayyul Da'i ilallah. السلام علیکم ایو دلیل اللہ. السلام علیکم یا حبل المتین. السلام علیکم یا ایو الفضل المبین. السلام علیکم ایو النور الساطع. السلام علیکم ایو البدر اللامع. السلام علیکم ایو الحق الابلج. السلام علیکم ایو السراج الاسرج. السلام علیکم ایو النظر الازہر. السلام علیکم ایو الکوكب الابحر. السلام علیکم ایو منزل عن المعضلات. السلام علیکم ای المعصوم من الضلالات. السلام علیکم ای ذکی فی الحسب. السلام علیکم ای رفیع فی النسب. السلام علیکم ای الکشید المشید. السلام علیکم یا حجت اللہ علی خلق اجمعین. اشہد یا مولایا انک قد صدات بالحق صدعا وبکرت العلم وکرا وبکرتہ نشرا لم تاخذک فی اللہ لاومۃ لائم وکنت لدین اللہ مقاتما وقضیت ما کان علیک واخرجت اولیائک من ولایت اللہ غیر الی ولایت اللہ وامرت بطاعت اللہ ونہیت عن معصیت اللہ حتی قبضک اللہ الی رضوانہ وذهب بک ادار الکرامہ. علماء ساکن اصفیائی و مجاوری اولیائی. السلام علیکم ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ. السلام علیکم یا اہل بیت النبی جمیع ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ. السلام علیکم صاحب رسر و زمان یا مظہر الایمان یا خلیفۃ الرحمان یا کعبۃ الایمان یا تفسیر الفرقان. السلام علیکم شریک القرآن. السلام علیکم یا امام زماننا عجل اللہ فرجک وسهل اللہ مخرجک وظہورک ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ.